So we can start.
Yes.
So we have already read it. Okay, so I'll read each sentence and we'll see whether it is. Not only liberation, but perfection must be the aim of the Karma Yoga. So, not only liberation. Liberation means the soul escapes from the prison of body, mind, life and comes outside the body, mind, life and stands at the lowest level or maybe even slightly higher, the lowest level of the spiritual planes of consciousness, the higher mind. Okay, it is not now in the body, mind, life. So that is the liberation. But the body, mind, life continues with its old habits and its old imperfections. So Srinivas is saying that also has to be corrected. In Karma Yoga, even that has to be done because what is Karma Yoga? You are doing works in the physical world for the divine. And if you are doing works for the divine and not for yourself, that work should be perfect. Otherwise, how will it be a good offering to the divine? So even the body, mind, life must become perfect in Karma Yoga. Okay? And for that, what is to be done? So Sriyamda has discovered that that can be done only when you go even higher up, okay, in consciousness. Then you have the power to change your body, mind, life also. So that's what it means here by perfection. Not only liberation, but perfection must be the aim of the Karma Yoga. The soul, when it goes up to the spiritual planes, it is relatively perfect. But the body, mind, life is imperfect, and that also has to be perfected. Okay, so I'm reading the next sentence. The divine works through our nature and according to our nature. In other words, even he takes into account the imperfections of our nature and he adjusts his work according to the instrument that he is working through. Suppose he is working through one of us, then our imperfections he takes into account and does the best he can. Okay? So his work in the physical world is not going to be as perfect as he would like it to be. It is conditioned by the imperfections of the individual nature. The divine works through our nature and according to our nature. If our nature is imperfect, the work also will be imperfect, mixed and inadequate. Okay? Even it may be marred by gross errors, falsehoods, moral weaknesses, diverting influences. These are all the imperfections of the body, mind, life, and so the work also will get diminished and also it may even get distorted. Yes, the divine work. The work of the divine will be done in us even then, but according to our weakness, not according to the strength and purity of its source. Remember again, the law of diminution and distortion comes in. The divine will is coming through, and when it enters the individual, it gets distorted and diminished according to the individual's nature, not according to the strength and purity of its source. If ours were not an integral yoga, if we sought only the liberation of the self within us or the motionless existence of Purusha, separated from Prakriti, this dynamic imperfection might not matter. Calm, untroubled, not depressed, not elated, refusing to accept the perfection or imperfection, fault or merit, sin or virtue as ours, perceiving that it is the modes of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas, working in the field of our modes that make this mixture, we could withdraw into the silence of the spirit and pure, untouched, witness only the workings of Prakriti. This is the aim of normal yoga in India, whatever the different types of yogas, but liberation is the aim and not worry too much about the body mind life. But in an integral realization, now Sriyamda is talking about it. If you are not doing the integral yoga, liberation is enough. But if you are doing integral yoga, The work that you will be doing in the physical world has to be perfect because the divine will use you as an instrument. So it makes a change. But in an integral realization, this can only be a step on the way, not our last resting place. That is what is meant by Sri Aurobindo's yoga begins where the others end. Okay, that's what is meant. You have to take this in the right spirit and not think of it as something superior claim. It's not a superior claim. It's just a statement of fact. Sri Aurobindo's yoga begins when you start perfecting the body-mind life, and which the others are not worried about. So this is what the phrase is used in this sense. Sri Aurobindo's yoga begins where the others end. And what is that? Which level? The level of the higher mind. Or it could be even slightly more, but it is limited to the mind planes, the spiritual mind planes of the higher mind, development mind, intuitive mind, over mind. Okay. But it has to go to the third level for the interior yoga. For, I read the next sentence. For we aim at the divine realization not only in the immobility of the spirit, but also in the movement of nature. Movement, immobility of spirit, the Brahmic consciousness, the level 2, but also in the movement of nature, level 1 at the lowest level, okay, and there the movement is permanent. So that movement also must become perfect. Okay? And this cannot be altogether until we can feel the presence and power of the divine in every step, motion, figure of our activities, in every turn of our will, in every thought, feeling, and impulse. Everything that we do, you must feel the divine presence. First of all, you feel the divine presence, and later on, you will feel the divine working through you. Okay? You become the instrument. And this cannot be altogether until we can feel the presence and power of the divine in every step, motion, figure of our activities, in every turn of our will, in every thought, feeling, and impulse. No doubt we can feel that in essence, even in the nature of the ignorance. Very often, those who are not perfect at all can feel that the divine is helping you. Okay, you can feel that. It's not very uncommon. You can feel that the divine is helping you in every way. Something seems impossible, but it gets done. And you feel that I have not done anything, and yet it is succeeded. Then you realize it is the divine helping you. No doubt, we can feel that in essence. We can feel that what? The divine presence. In essence, even in the nature of the ignorance. But it is the divine power and presence in a disguise, a diminution. Note the word diminution, an inferior figure. So, the divine power from top, when it enters into the individual, if the individual is pure, to a large extent, the divine will be accomplished through you. But if you are impure, and depending on the degree of impurity, will be the divine will which is getting distorted and the work is not done perfectly at all. Okay? That's what it said. Ours is a greater demand. What is ours? The interior yoga. The interior yoga is a greater demand that our nature shall be a power of the divine in the truth of the divine. Our nature, our body, mind, life shall be a power of the divine in the truth of the divine, in the light, in the force of the eternal, self-conscious will, in the wideness of the sempiternal knowledge. So we should have, that's why we have to, the karma yoga in the interior yoga has to make sure that the body, mind, life also is as relatively perfect as possible. That's what we say. Now we can go to the next paragraph after the impulse. So one of you has to read. So who will read today?
Rangadhar.
Yeah, Sufi, Kiran, maybe Kiran can read?
Yes, Ramya.
Okay, go ahead. After the removal of the veil of ego.
Yes. After the removal of the veil of ego, the removal of the veil of nature, and the inferior modes that govern our mind, life, and body. As soon as the limits of the ego begin to fade, we see how that veil is constituted and detect the action of cosmic nature in us. And in or behind cosmic nature, we sense the presence of the cosmic self and and the dynamics of the world pervading Ishvara. The master of the instrument stands behind all this working, and even within the working, there is his touch and the drive of a great guiding or disposing influence. It is no longer ego or ego force that we serve. We obey the world master and his evolutionary impulse. At each step, we can say in the language of the Sanskrit verse, even as I am appointed by thee, seated in my heart, O Lord, I act. But still, this action may be of two very different kinds. One only illumined, the other transformed and uplifted into a greater supernature. For me, for we may keep on in the way of action upheld and followed by our nature, when by her and her illusion of egoism we were turned as if mounted on a machine, but now with a perfect understanding of the mechanism and its utilization for his world purposes by the master of works, whom we feel behind it. This is indeed as far as even many great yogis have reached on the levels of spiritualized mind. But it need not be so always, for there is a greater supramentary possibility. It is possible to rise beyond spiritualized mind and to act spontaneously in the living presence of the original divine truth force of the Supreme Mother. Our motion with her motion and merged in it, our will, one with her will, our energy absorbed in her energy. We shall feel her working through us as the divine manifest in a supreme wisdom power, and we shall be aware of the transformed mind, life, and body only as the channels of a supreme light and force beyond them, infallible in its steps because transcendent and total in its knowledge. Of this light and force, we shall not only be the recipients, channels, instruments, but become a part of it in a supreme, uplifted, abiding experience.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so what he is describing here is the first liberation of the soul, and then next the liberation of the nature. Nature is your body, mind, life. So, first of all, the liberation is very clear. We have understood very clearly. Liberation is the soul which is trapped in the body, mind, life, escapes from the body, mind, life, and goes to the second level of the spiritual planes, what Sridhar is calling the spiritualized mind. Okay, that's very clearly level 2. And in Sridhar Yoga, these are, I keep repeating, so that it becomes absolutely clear. Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, lower mind. The third level is the super mind, which is quite different. Okay, so this is the liberation. The removal of the veil of ego, when the removal of the veil of ego means you are in level 2. You are in a spiritual consciousness. But the body mind life remains the same. Therefore, he is saying, after the removal of the veil of ego, which is liberation, the removal of the veil of nature and her inferior modes that govern our mind, life, and body. So, nature is your body, mind, life, and that is still ignorance, and that also has to be liberated. And what will liberation be? The Trigunatita. You have to become Trigunatita. Okay, so you have to, the body must become absolutely capable of receiving the divine guidance. The vital must become pure, and the mind must become free of ignorance. Then the relative perfection is achieved. Okay, so we are speaking of a relative perfection also. We'll see that. As soon as the limits of the ego begin to fade, we see how that veil is constituted and detect the action of cosmic nature in us. In other words, as soon as you go to the spiritual plane of consciousness, you start seeing that it is cosmic nature that is making you act, think, speak, and also have emotions. It is a nature which is doing that to you, not yourself. It's one of the, along with liberation comes the realization that you are doing nothing at all. You are just a puppet, and nature was playing with you like a puppet. Okay? You realize that. It's a huge realization. Because then, if you realize that you are not doing something else, naturally the ego is not there. Okay? The ego goes away. But the lower level, your body mind life remains imperfect. So this you see. As soon as the limits of the ego, not the word, limits of the ego, okay? Not the ego is fully, because the instrumental ego can still be there. It's the limits of the ego that are going away. The limits of the ego begin to fade. We see how that veil is constituted and detect the action of cosmic nature in us. It's cosmic nature that is acting, just as it is acting in a plant. It's making the plant grow, and the plant is not thinking that I am growing. Exactly the same way for human beings also, it is nature which is making you act, emote, and think, but you think that you are doing everything because you have an ego. Okay? That you realize that you are not doing anything. In and behind cosmic nature, we sense the presence of a cosmic self. So that's the next step. If you go even higher up from the higher mind to relevant mind, you may become aware that behind cosmic nature, which seems to be mechanical unconscious movement, we see that there is a cosmic self. There is a divine consciousness behind the nature, which is guiding nature, which seems to be absolutely mechanical and unconscious. When you see that, you see the river is flowing, the sunlight is coming, the wind is blowing, all mechanical, okay, and following laws. So behind that, you start seeing that there is a divine consciousness which is manipulating even cosmic nature. And detect the action of a cosmic nature in us. And in and behind, you can see it in or you can see it behind cosmic nature. And when you see that, then you realize that's what is called the theistic, what is it called? Nature. Nature is the divine. Okay, that is. I forget the name of the philosophy.
Pantheistic. Isn't that pantheistic, Rangada? Pantheistic.
Pantheism. That's right. That's the word, pantheism. So you come to pantheism, okay, and you think that that's the only way the divine is acting. That's a mistake that one makes. Pantheism. That's right. Okay. So that's the dynamics of the. And in and behind. So you can see the divine presence in nature, or you can see it behind nature. We sense the presence of a cosmic self and the dynamics of the world-pervading Ishvara. Ishvara is there, manipulating even nature. The master of the instrument, who is Ishvara, the instrument is the instrument can be nature also, universal nature, but it can also be the individual. The master of the instrument stands behind all this working, and even within the working, there is his touch and the drive of a great guiding and disposing influence. So, very often, even in the ignorance, you can feel the divine encouraging you, doing your work partly. Okay, you can sense, imperfectly, of course, but you can sense that. The master of the instrument stands behind all this working, and even within the working, there is his touch and the drive of a great guiding or disposing influence. It is no longer ego or ego force that is served. We obey the world master and his evolutionary impulse. Whatever is the divine will in the universe, that you attune yourself to it. At each step, we can say in the language of the Sanskrit verse, even as I am appointed by thee, seated in my heart, so, O Lord, I act. This is the Mahabharata. Okay? But still, this action may be of two different kinds. Now see, very interesting what Sri is saying. Even if you are in the spiritual consciousness, there can be two grades. One only illumine. That means to say, you see the truth, okay? But you may not always be able to follow the truth, okay? So one is only illumine, the other transform. So you see the truth, and you can, in the first one, you may not be able to fully follow it. That's the first one. And the other, transform. That means you have the power also to change your action according to the truth that you perceive and uplift it into a greater supernature. So, greater supernature, Paraprakriti. Your body, mind, life is no more the Aparaprakriti, but becomes the Paraprakriti. But there also there are grades. You cannot become absolutely perfect, but very largely perfect. For we may keep on in the way of action, upheld and followed by our nature, when by her and an illusion of egoism were turned as if mounted on a machine, but now with a perfect understanding of the mechanism and its utilization for his world purposes by the master of works, whom we feel behind it. So let's look at the traits, what he's saying, and identify the words. First he's saying, we may keep on in the way of action, upheld and followed by our nature, when by her and her illusion of egoism, we were turned as if mounted on a machine. This is the phrase from the Gita. And somebody is saying that after the liberation, you see that your body, mind, life is working like a machine, obeying nature's will. So this is not even illumined, okay? But then illumination comes and you see that now your body, mind, life is responding to a certain extent to your commands, okay? But now with a perfect understanding of the mechanism and the utilization of his world purpose by the master of works. So when it is illumined, you see how it is working. But when it is transformed, you become an instrument in the hands of the divine. Okay? That's what it is. Understanding of the mechanism and its utilization for his world purposes by the master of works, whom we feel behind. This now, but this is still, you feel the presence of the divine, but you are not able to act fully according to his dictates. So this is the, what Sadhguru is saying, most yogis go up to this level. They don't transform the body, mind, life. This is indeed as far as even many great yogis go. In other words, your consciousness is illumined, but not transformed. Okay? This is indeed as far as even many great yogis have reached on the levels of spiritualized mind. So spiritualized mind, very clear, the higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, lower mind. This is in this classification in the Sri Yoga. Okay? So the others are limited to the spiritualized mind. Have reached the levels of spiritualized mind. But it need not be so always, for there is a greater supramental possibility, and that is level 3. You go to the supramental possibility. It is possible to rise beyond spiritualized mind and to act spontaneously in the living presence of the original divine truth force of the Supreme Mother. Very clearly, original divine, number 1, truth force, number 2, of the Supreme Mother, number 3, in the Supermind. Okay? So this is the Supermind. The description is absolutely crystal clear. Original divine truth force of the Supreme Mother. Our motion, and this you can experience, okay, you may wonder how Sadhguru is saying this, because we know that there is no transformation, supramental transformation of the body. Largely it was done, but it was certainly not so. But he had a glimpse of it. No? By glimpse, he may have, for a long time, he may have remained in that consciousness. Okay? So, because in the late 30s, he tells Niruddha that I am getting glimpses of it. I've caught the Superman by the tail and I'm pulling it, but I have not been able to achieve it, he says. But in the early 40s and late 40s, certainly he was very, very often in the supramental consciousness. Otherwise, he could not have written this. Okay, this it need not be so always, for there is a greater supramental possibility. It is possible to rise beyond spiritualized mind and to act spontaneously in the living presence of the original divine truth force of the Supreme Mother. Okay? The Supreme Mother is only at the supramental level, because we know that Para Prakriti and also Ishwari Shakti. So then Ishwara Shakti, when you are at the supramental level, you can have two interesting experiences. You can have the experience of Ishwara, who has got all the power and he is acting. Okay, you can see it like this. Or, depending on your nature, you will experience Ishwari Shakti, okay? Not Ishwara Shakti. The Ishwara Shakti is you see the divine as a person who is impersonal, but he is the one running the universe like an emperor. But you see also the divine mother sometimes, and you see as a Ishwari Shakti. At that time, you see the mother is more important than the Ishwara who is standing behind. And in the other case, Ishwara, the Lord is there standing and his force is there behind. So even at the supramental level, although both are there, depending on the individual nature, you can experience these two things. This is said in the synthesis elsewhere. Okay, so of the divine. Now, he is describing what happens at that level. Our motion, one with her motion and merged in it. In other words, absolutely you are being able to obey the divine command perfectly, without distortion. One motion, our motion, one with her motion, and merged in it, our will, one with her will, our energy, absorbed in her energy. Now that's a very interesting term. They often use the word absolve. Okay, the word absolve is when you are supposed to be guilty, you are charged with a crime. Okay, and then finally in the court it is proved that you are not criminal, you are innocent. Then the judge says you are free to go. You are absolved of your accusation. You are absolved of your sin. So when Sridhar is using the word that our energy absorbed in our energy which is guilty of imperfection, okay, is absorbed. You are not guilty of imperfection anymore. You are one with the divine energy. See the word interesting, absorbed, how he uses the word. Okay. We shall feel her working through us as a divine manifest in a supreme wisdom power. Note the word wisdom power. Chit Shakti, both. Wisdom is Chit, knowledge, and power is Shakti. So both you have. In the spiritual planes, you have only the wisdom, but you don't have the power. But in the spiritual plane of consciousness, you have both. And both are capital wisdom, capital P. And we shall be aware of the transformed mind, life and body, only as the channels of a supreme light and force beyond them. The body, mind, life has become channels of the light and force from above. Infallible in its steps, no more mistakes possible, because transcendent and total in its knowledge. Of this light and force, we shall not only be the recipients, channels, instruments, but become a part of it in a supreme, uplifted, abiding in experience. Now, he has used 3 words. Why is he using 3 words? Why is he not saying only one? Because there is a gradation again. Recipient is one, you are receiving the force, but you are not being able to use it in the right way. That's a recipient. It's the least, the lowest form of receiving. Then you become a channel. And the channel, that means partly you are being able to obey the divine will. But when you are an instrument, it's perfectly you are being used by the divine force. So you can see the gradation even in these. Sridhar never uses words uselessly. Okay? He always doesn't intention, and you have to get through to the intention. Recipient only, not necessarily the executor of the divine will. You are receiving. Or you become a channel, partly it is getting through. Okay. In all channels, the water from one channel goes to the other channel, and if it goes fully, you become an instrument. Okay. But become a part of the supreme, uplifted, abiding experience. So note the word part of it. Okay. Your individual becomes a part of the universal, but you are still conscious of your individual. So it's 8:31. We've got 9 minutes. We can read the next one. Already before we reach. So who will read today?
I can read them.
Okay, Tarika, read already before we reach.
Already, before we reach the last perfection, we can have the union with the divine in works in its extreme wideness, if not yet on its most luminous height. For we perceive no longer merely nature or the modes of nature, but become conscious in our physical movement, in our nervous and vital reactions, in our mental workings, of a force greater than body, mind, and life, which takes hold of our limited instruments and drives all their motions. There is no longer the sense of ourselves moving, thinking, or feeling, but of that moving, feeling, and thinking in us. This force that we feel is the universal force of the divine, which, veiled or unveiled, acting directly or permitting the use of its powers by beings in the cosmos, is the one energy that alone exists and alone makes universal or individual action possible. For this force is the divine itself in the body of its power. All is that power of act, power of thought and knowledge, power of mastery and enjoyment, power of love. Conscious always and in everything, in ourselves and in others, of the master of works, possessing, inhabiting, enjoying through this force that is himself, becoming through it all existences and all happenings, we shall have arrived at the divine union through works and achieved by that fulfillment in works all that others have gained through absolute devotion or through pure knowledge. But there is still another step that calls us, an ascent out of this cosmic identity into the identity of the divine transcendence. The master of our works and our being is not merely a Godhead here within us.
That's the next para. That's the next para.
So for me, it is the continuation.
So divine transcendence, the para ends. Okay, you have got the SABCL, and maybe there they have clubbed them together. So we stop there, okay?
Yeah.
Divine transcendence. So we have time. We'll quickly go through. I think we can finish it. About 6 minutes. Already, before we reach this last perfection, so now he's describing, he has told us what the last perfection is. You become a perfect instrument of the divine. And you are being able to transmit the divine will into the physical world in action which is absolutely faithful to the divine will. But now, before that, he's saying, even then we can feel the divine presence, and how? Relatively and partially. That's what he's describing. Okay? We can have the union with the divine in works in its extreme wideness. In other words, not in great detail. Okay? Largely you can follow the divine will, but not in absolutely every detail. That's what it means. Extreme wideness means a little diluted. Huh? So, if not on its most luminous heights. Widenesses are not the heights. The heights are absolutely at the highest level. For we perceive no longer merely nature or the modes of nature, but become conscious in our physical movements, in our nervous and vital reactions, in our mental workings of a force greater than body, mind, and life. Now, note interestingly, Swami is using very often body, mind, and life. He is not sticking to the sequence of body, life, and mind. That's why I have also got into the habit of very often saying body, mind, and life. But the sequence should be correctly body, life, and mind, or mind, life, and body. So anyway, so and life, which takes hold of our limited instruments. So your instruments are still imperfect, limited instruments, and drives all their motion. So even before the supramentalization, you can become an instrument of the divine relatively, okay, partially. That's what Sri described. Okay? So you can feel a force working in your body, even in your body, your vital and your mind, and helping you to get more knowledge, making your vital more pure, and even the body is not wasting its energy unnecessarily, which takes hold of our limited instruments and drives all their motion. There is no longer the sense of ourselves moving. You clearly feel that you are being moved. Not perfectly, but even imperfectly, it's something fantastic. Okay? We no longer have the sense of ourselves moving, thinking or feeling, but of that moving, feeling and thinking in us. This force that we feel in the universal, this force that we feel is the universal force of the divine, which, veiled or unveiled, you can see them in both. Again, he is giving you gradations, acting directly or permitting the use of its powers by beings in the cosmos. So there are many beings in the cosmos, positive and negative. There are beings who help you, the angels, kinnerers, these are beings who help you. And there are also hostile forces which don't help you. Okay? It is the one energy that alone exists and alone makes universal or individual action possible. The divine is acting in the universe through these powers and beings in the universe. We know that there are beings everywhere. Okay? In the universe also there are beings. As you said, Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Apsaras, all these are also forces in the universe. And sometimes they help and sometimes they hinder. Okay? For this force is the divine itself in the body of its power. All is that power of act, power of thought and knowledge, power of mastery and enjoyment, power of love, conscious always, power of love, conscious always and in everything, in ourselves and in others, of the master of works, possessing, inhabiting, enjoying. Again, there are three words. When he is possessing you, he is not yet inhabiting you. So he possesses you and uses your instrument, but it cannot be as good as when he is inhabiting you. He has come into you and enjoying, the last one. So when he is enjoying everything in you, you feel that you are enjoying. That's the highest level. Through this force, that is himself, becoming through it all existences and all happenings. What is this? The cosmic consciousness. Becoming through it all existences and happenings, we shall have arrived at the divine union through works and achieved by that fulfillment in works all that others have gained through absolute devotion or through pure knowledge. Devotion, Bhakti Yoga. Pure knowledge, Jnana Yoga. So, Karma Yoga is very much stressed in the integral yoga. Okay? So, Karma Yoga. I remember Mother was very, very keen on everybody working. Okay? If you say that you are doing meditation, she would always say, you have to take this in a relative manner. Okay? She would say, it's better not to pretend to be meditating for 1 hour and wasting 1 hour, better go and do some work. We used to say that. So, Karma Yoga is very important in our integral yoga. That's why everybody has to work. Okay? But there is still another step that calls us. An ascent out of this cosmic identity into the identity of the divine transcendence, which he has described in the previous paragraph. Okay? When you go to the divine transcendence, which is the third level, what happens? He has already told us in the previous paragraph. Now he is describing the relative perfection of the spiritual planes of consciousness. We stop here today. Next time we'll take up the master of all works. Okay? Au revoir, everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you.